Very good evening to you. My name is Neil Harvey. You're watching RT International. Now, we'll start this hour with breaking news for you, and that is that President Donald Trump has just signed an executive order to withdraw from the Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal.
We've been talking about this for a long time. Thank you. Okay. Great thing for the American worker, what we just did.
Joined on the line now by our correspondent Caleb Maupin. Caleb, so we've just seen Trump there signing this executive order. What more do we know about it, and what do we expect the consequences to be?
Well, it looks like one of Donald Trump's key campaign promises has now come into reality. Donald Trump has effectively canceled the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Now, throughout his campaign, Donald Trump spoke against this treaty, saying it was a bad deal for American workers and domestic manufacturers. Let's take a listen to what he said throughout his campaign.
TPP, which is a disaster, by the way, we'll never approve it.
TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership. One bad deal after another.
Withdraw from TPP, which is another disaster, and protect every last American job.
Now, the Trans-Pacific Partnership was a deal that was negotiated by U.S. President Barack Obama. It involved the United States and 11 countries in Asia, and it was essentially designed to eliminate or drastically reduce tariffs and to reform labor provisions in the countries that had signed on to it. Now, Barack Obama spent 2 years trying to sell the deal. Many within Barack Obama's own party opposed the deal. However, many in the Republican Party supported it. Now, Donald Trump had opposed the deal all along, despite support for it within his own party, and all the major candidates had denounced the deal during the campaign. And at this point, it remains to see what reaction there will be to Donald Trump's action, whether or not Democrats will applaud what Donald Trump has done, whether or not members of the Republican Party, Trump's party, will oppose it, what impact this will have on manufacturing in the United States and the U.S. economy. A lot remains to be seen as Donald Trump, taking office, takes immediate action and fulfills one of his campaign promises.
Okay, man, thanks, Caleb Maupin, bringing us the background to that story there. Now, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP, as it's more commonly known, is a free trade deal. It was expected to cover 800 million people worldwide and involve 40% of the global economy. Among the countries that agreed to TPP were Canada, Australia, Mexico and Japan. Let's get more assessment on this now. I can speak to RT America's host, Ed Schultz. Ed, thanks for joining us. Why should people care about this decision? Is this a big surprise or not?
Well, this underscores what Donald Trump has said all along, that he's going to protect American jobs, and this puts the United States in a position of a level of protectionism that we haven't seen for a long time. The fact is that he believed that this was a race to the bottom, that American workers would be competing against workforces in Vietnam in Brunei to the tune of 54 cents an hour. And there has already been reaction on Capitol Hill. Bernie Sanders has reached out and said that this is a great move, saying that he's glad that this deal is finally dead. This goes against the millions upon millions of dollars that was spent by a Wall Street lobbyist to try to get this deal through the Congress, and they couldn't get it done. And people within the Obama party, the Democratic Party, were not on board with him. Elizabeth Warren was against it. Chuck Schumer was against it. Bernie Sanders moved Hillary Clinton on this issue, which only emboldened Donald Trump to talk about it more on the campaign trail. So this is going to satisfy those old Reagan Democrats who left the Democrats and voted for Reagan. The same makeup as of those white workers in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, and Wisconsin that left the Democrats and went to Donald Trump. And I can tell you that a lot of union workers in this country are going to be very happy that he has made this move this early. No one would have anticipated Hillary Clinton doing this early. This is living up to a campaign promise. It goes against Wall Street. Bernie Sanders is embracing it. John McCain on the Republican side has said that this is a big mistake. But this now opens the door for Donald Trump to go do these trade deals that he promised the American people he would do. So this chapter isn't done yet. This book isn't done yet. This is just the first chapter of getting rid of the TPP, which I think is a good move for America.
Yeah, I mean, you seem to like it. From what you've said, it sounds like the majority of people in the US are probably going to approve of this. There's going to be some people who aren't happy with it, though. What about the people who actually, the other countries who signed up for this deal?
Well, this was really done under the radar, the negotiation. It was very quiet. And it wasn't until in the latter part of the negotiations that the unions got together and started to tell their story across America about how this was going to circumvent American law. And this was going to be setting up international tribunals to determine whether corporations were being fairly treated under American law, and the Congress wouldn't have been able to do anything about it. When people got that story and they recognized that the outsourcing of the jobs, especially in the manufacturing sector, was going to get hit even harder, opinion started to change on it. And the last numbers that I saw, over 60% of the American people did not want to see the TPP ratified. And it was a tough sell for President Obama, and he kept telling the American people that he didn't want China to write the rules. China doesn't have any trade agreements with any of these countries either. So it's back to a level playing field. And also, Trump has called out China on currency manipulation. Many of the Democrats and Republicans have done the same thing. So that's where the common ground is going to be. So I don't think there's going to be a trade war. I think that there's going to be some countries that are going to want to deal with the United States. But I think in general, most Americans are for what Donald Trump did. In fact, I think it gave him a leg up in the election and helped him get elected.
It sounds like it's popular with workers. What about big corporations? How are they going to feel about this?
They are not going to like it, Norm. There's no question about it. The fact of the matter is that Wall Street spent millions upon millions of dollars to get this deal through. It was a corporate deal all along. It was a race to the bottom. It was pushing down American wages. And it was greasing the skids for international companies to come in and circumvent American law. When the American people found out about it, I remember when I first started covering it, the American people didn't know about it. And when I was in the corporate media, I did over 100 stories on it. I was actually on Capitol Hill talking to some Democrats who never even knew what the TPP was. Now, this was 2 years ago. But there was an education process that took place. A lot of advocacy groups kicked into gear. And Trump has lived up to a campaign promise. This is not what Hillary Clinton wanted on the campaign trail. She was moved on this issue by Bernie Sanders reluctantly, but it was Trump who won the benefit of the doubt of the voters and won the election. I think this is a big part of it.
Donald Trump, of course, has got a lot of people who don't like him. They seem to oppose everything he does. We can say that half the country pretty much didn't vote for him. We saw hundreds of thousands of people protesting at the weekend against him. Do you think this decision will win some of those people over, or will they still find something they don't like in this?
Well, there's a lot of people that were in those crowds throughout the country over the weekend that did not want the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And this puts them in somewhat of an untenable position to be protesting against the President of the United States and then turn around and slap him on the back for doing something he said he was going to do. This is good for American workers, but it also puts pressure on the Trump administration to start acting on trade deals to keep the commerce rolling or develop new relationships with the countries that were involved in the TPP. But to level the playing field when it comes to currency manipulation. Many of the people that are protesting the president are going to applaud this deal, and it puts them in a rather interesting position politically. You're not going to hear a whole lot of Democrats on Capitol Hill clamoring about how great Donald Trump is for doing this. This is what they wanted, but they're not going to give him the accolades for it.
And do you think that this is a pretty positive start for Donald Trump? People were slightly afraid, I suspect, of how things were going to be under him as president, but it seems like he's off to a positive start.
It's a very positive start. Number one, he lived up to what he said he was going to do. Number two, he went right to his base, the working folk that he actually took away from the Democratic Party. If he had not addressed this trade deal, I do not believe he would have won Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, and Wisconsin. He took those union workers that normally go to the Democrats and actually got them active and got them moving. Half the steel workers in this country voted for Trump. And many people think that the unions voted against their own best interests. I don't see that at all. This is exactly what they wanted. I did a lot of town halls in the last several years talking to people, and they were frightful of this deal because this was going to grease the skids for more outsourcing and make it easier for corporations to ship their jobs overseas and lower the protections for workers in this country. And I just think that this is a very populist thing to do. It crosses both Republican and Democratic lines, and it's a great move. It puts the president on good footing with the people who voted for him. Despite all the protests, this puts him on good footing with the people that wanted him to be president.
Yeah, Trump's talked the talk a lot. Seems like he's started to walk the walk as well to go with it. Many thanks for joining us. That's RT America host Ed Schultz on the line with me.